Hello and welcome to Back to Basics Part 1. This is the first of a set of 3 videos I'm going to make on bow technique. This first one concentrates on the large arm movements, the second one will concentrate on the small finger movements, and the third one is going to be putting together the large arm movements and the small finger movements. Going back to basics is always a good idea when one is doing something as complicated as playing the violin. And these exercises I'm going to show you in these videos, I learnt when I was already studying the violin full time, so I was quite advanced already. So no matter what level you're on, it never hurts to go back to basics to understand the mechanics of bow technique. The bow is very different in the upper half from the lower half. In the upper half, the bow is light and we don't have much control because our hand is quite far away from the string. In the lower half, the bow is heavy and we have more control because our hand is closer to the string. The movements that the arm has to perform are also very different in the upper half and in the lower half. So by separating the two, one gets a clearer idea of how the arm actually has to move. So you start by just putting the bow onto the string in the middle of the bow, approximately, on the E string, and let your upper arm just hang. Don't squash it against your body and don't lift the elbow away, just let it hang. And then you play from the middle to the tip and back. You notice that this movement is largely done by the lower arm. The upper arm doesn't have much to do here. So that we don't bow backwards, like this, the upper arm has to move forward slightly so that the hand can go in a bit of a curve so that we can bow straight. That was very exaggerated. Of course, you're not supposed to bow like that. But just to know that you don't bow backwards, the upper arm does have to move forward slightly when playing in the upper half. But most of the movement is just done by the lower arm. And then stop in the middle. Then move over to the A string. Same thing. Stop in the middle, move over to the D string. Stop in the middle and move over to the G string. Stop in the middle, back to the D string. Stop in the middle, back to the A string. Stop in the middle and back to the E string. The point of stopping in the middle for the string crossings is to make them very conscious, because the upper arm determines what string we play on. A string, D string, G string, D string, A string, E string. Now, because the bow is light in the upper half, we need to add weight. And a good practicing method is to also practice this exercise catching the string. Same exercise, just catching the string. Catch the string. For those of you who are not familiar with catching the string, you catch the string by adding weight to the stick with your hand. That's this movement. And you can tell you've caught the string if you can move the string back and forth without making a sound. Like this. And then, as you play, you release. Catch catch the string, release. And that brings the typical clicking sound that we need for bowings like martelé. Same on the D string, catch the string, catch the string. Don't forget to release, because otherwise it will scratch. So you do the same exercise with catching the string, because that way you're practicing adding weight in the upper half. Now for the lower half, you start in the same position, middle of the bow, approximately on the E string. Let your upper arm just hang. And now imagine the bow is moving up and it's pulling your hand and arm along with it. So the bow is moving up and your hand and arm just get pulled along with it. That way you naturally have a low elbow. Very important is, as you play from the middle to the frog, to curl your fingers and bend your thumb. Stop in the middle, same on the A string. Curl your fingers and bend your thumb as you move towards the frog. D string position, curl your fingers and bend your thumb, and imagine the bow pulling your hand and arm along. Same on the G string. Back to the D string, back to the A string, and back to the E string. Now what can help play in the lower half a lot is what I call an exaggerated practicing method, because the movement that the arm has to perform is more complex in the lower half. That's why it is less comfortable to play in the lower half. What you do is you hold your bow here and you do the same exercise from the middle to the frog. Very difficult, you're exaggerating the movement. And you do that on all strings as well. And the good thing is, when you then hold the bow normally again, it will feel a lot easier. So particularly if you find playing in the lower half very uncomfortable, practice this exercise holding the bow up here and playing all the way to the frog for a while, and you will notice when you hold the bow normally again, it will feel a lot easier. The next step is to put together the upper half and the lower half, but still think of them as separate movements so that you're very clear of whether you're playing in the upper half, which is largely done by the lower arm, or whether you're playing in the lower half, where basically the bow pulls the hand and arm along. What you do is, again, you start in the middle of the bow on the E string, let your arm just hang, and then you play upper half, stop in the middle, lower half. The bow pulls the hand and arm along. Curl your fingers and bend your thumb. Stop in the middle, move over to the A string, upper half. Stop in the middle, lower half. Stop in the middle, move over to the D string, upper half. Stop in the middle, lower half. stop in the middle, G string, same thing. The next step is the same exercise, but this time don't stop in the middle, but still think very consciously upper half, lower half. So you start in the same place again. Start in the middle of the bow on the E string, and then you play to the tip. And now you play to the frog. You don't stop in the middle anymore, but still think upper half, lower half, lower half, upper half, and back to the middle. And then you move consciously over to the A string and the same thing. Upper half, lower half, lower half, upper half, and back to the middle. And then you move over to the D string, G string, back to the D string, back to the A string, and back to the E string. Now you're playing with whole bows, but you're consciously moving in the upper half, which is done by the lower arm, and in the lower half where the bow pulls the hand and arm along. And don't forget to curl your fingers and bend your thumb as you move towards the frog. After so much open string practice, once you're familiar with the movements of the arm in the upper half and in the lower half, it's a good idea to start implementing that in a scale where you basically do the same exercise, but you're playing a scale. I would recommend to start in the middle of the bow. For example, a D major scale. Upper half, lower half, lower half. And so on. And then do it without stopping in the middle as well. Upper half, lower half. Upper half, lower half. And the next step would be to implement it in an etude, because the point of an etude is that a lot of your concentration will go towards what the left hand has to do. So you're working on automating the movements of your right arm. And the perfect etude for this exercise is Wohlfahrt number 4. And you can do exactly the same thing. Lower half, upper half, upper half, upper half, lower half, lower half, lower half, upper half, upper half. Very helpful to practice Wohlfahrt number 4 in this manner. Okay, I hope you find this exercise helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And the next video in this series is going to be about the small finger movements. That's this. Okay, happy practicing to everyone.